Coming up next, I'm excited to bring you an exclusive interview with the son of one of New York's most famous Italian Americans. Our guest has a big heart for helping the youth with a positive message, and he brings us some great words of wisdom as he talks about his father's passion to unite Italian Americans and all ethnicities. Welcome to Real Mob Stories with James Proctor, where we delve into the world of organized crime, giving you perspectives you won't find anywhere else. Please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't. We bring you content on a daily basis, so hit that notification bell so you'll know when I drop the next Real Mob Story. Without further delay, here's our interview. All right, we're honored to have with us today Chris Colombo, the son of the late, great Joe Colombo. Thank you for being here today. Chris, how are you doing?
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. How about yourself, James?
Hey, doing really good. You know, Chris, this is the second time I've had you on to interview you. Last time we had we had a great discussion, talking about the Italian American Civil Rights League, how your father was, had a passion and belief in the cause. And so I wanted to continue on that story. But before we do that, congratulations on your great NFL season.
15-3, 83%. Should have been higher. I got pushed into picking another game.
Uh-huh.
People don't realize the biggest money maker for the house or a bookmaker or a betting house is the 3-team parlay, and they give you 10 points for each team.
Mm-hmm.
And if that makes the money,
Yep.
why do you think you could play multiple games? I'm trying to educate them.
Yeah.
We're coming into baseball where 2-team money dogs parlay is the most dangerous bet against the house.
Wow.
You only have to hit 1 out of 4 to make money.
You know that anyone that's been following you on your picks, they're going to be very happy. And you know what, I think that what you do that's a little different than other folks is that, you're not doing like 100 different, picks. You look at it more on a scientific basis and you'll just pick, 1 or 2 games, right?
Yeah, well, because that's the way that the smart people would pick me apart.
Yep.
And you had to be on top of your game because they came in all at once. 2 beards, double hit you, You didn't move your line and know what you're doing, you didn't put your lights out.
Yep. So
You
you
don't bet 5, 10, 50,000 a game losing.
right. Yeah, no way to do that. Are you involved in the basketball, or are you involved in the tournament that's going on? March Madness and all that?
Everybody's Super Bowl is the biggest day for betting. I found that New Year's Day, the bowl games and the March Madness was by far the most volume that you would get in a short period of time.
Wow. Yeah. I always hear about the Super Bowl, of the billions being bet on that. It's just crazy, all these.
So it usually just ends up to the juice.
Right. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about too was, the Italian American Civil Rights League and saying, continuing on from the discussion last time, but I'd like folks to understand, even though your father was, he started in it, in 1969 or 70? Was that the year?
1969.
Yeah. So tell me what your father accomplished with the Italian American Civil Rights League. He got started in 69 and 2 years and some change.
A little flyer that was sent out to members of the league, the accomplishments of 1970, and it still had another year. Picketing FBI headquarters in New York City was the first step in united the Italian American people to stand together and fight discrimination and harassment.
Yeah.
Inherently, Italians had never come together.
Right.
This is the first time in history.
Wow.
And how it started was my brother got arrested, and they changed the law to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the original start of the league was my father was so enraged. My brother was young, and he was facing, 20 or 30 years on a Hobbs Act.
Right.
And he was a coin dealer and used to be able to melt down silver coins. They were worth 25 cents.
Right.
He melted them down. I think they were worth 36, 42, something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And they changed the law just to arrest him.
Mm.
And they had Richie Solomon was their plant and their informant. He recanted his testimony. And what my father did, he was so enraged that he grabbed my sister, myself, and my mother and went to FBI headquarters and started kicking on the door saying, take all of us. These are your tactics.
Yep.
And this is under Hoover. and it's much different FBI today.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
long story short, he's kicking on the door, and more people came, and more people came, and more
Hmm.
people came, and eventually there was anywhere from 600 to 3,000 every single night for over 2 years picketing the FBI headquarters, and they would go around in a circle and chant certain things
Yeah.
and wear signs because of the harassment. That was the
Hmm.
inception of the start of the discrimination part of the league, but it was multifaceted. And for our neighborhood, if you went to a black neighborhood, you had black chief of police, black
Yep.
congressman, black
Sure.
assembly. Italians didn't have that. So we
Yep.
fought that and stuck together. Okay, let me read it. On Unity Day, June 29th, 1970, approximately 250,000 Italian Americans, for the first time, united together in one loud outcry against the discrimination at the words of Mafia and Cosa Nostra, which is labeled this to this day.
Right.
One of the problems we had was that press wouldn't give us any media, so nobody knew what we were doing.
Right.
And they even downplayed the how many people were at
Mm.
the first Unity Day, because how the picketing stopped, they asked my father, what were you going to do? Everybody met at FBI headquarters and marched over the bridge and went to Unity Day to show that we were united.
Right.
And that was the one symbol that they would do. Not that we are number one, we are together as one.
Right.
We
Exactly.
unite with other minorities. And later on,
Mhm.
he united with Kahani and the Jews, helped the Soviet Jews. Yeah, I'll show you a picture of it. So they
Sure.
said there was only like 25,000.
Yeah.
That's a picture aerial, and that only shows half what
Oh,
was there.
wow. Oh,
And Discovery
that's
Channel was
10
here. I showed
times
it
as
to them,
much as that. That has to be
and
at
we
least 2 or
figured out there was
300,000.
approximately 25 people per square inch.
Yep.
So just by this thing, it was over 175,000, and you could see
Yep.
that it's only maybe not even 70%
Wow.
of the picture.
Yeah.
But we never got our just due, and how we got picked up by the news is an interesting story.
Yep.
Johnny Carson and Ed McCann became a devout member of the league and the MC for both of the musical extravaganzas, the biggest concerts with the best names ever put together for the league.
Yep.
What happened was Johnny Carson used to like to drink. He was at Chili's. He
Mhm.
assaulted a prominent guy's girlfriend.
Mhm.
They threw him out before he got there. He got so enraged. Johnny Carson went on the lam in New Jersey.
Yeah. Wow.
My father was friendly with a producer from NBC by the name of Cy Kravitz.
Okay.
Cy Kravitz married Roxy Roker. And on the show, The Jeffersons, moving on up to the east
Yep.
side,
Yep.
was
Mhm.
the pretty black woman married to the white guy,
Yes.
and George Jefferson was the black bigot across from Archie Bunker, where she came from, and All in the Family
Yep.
was a white
Exactly.
bigot. The dichotomy was actually very funny.
Yes, it was.
And they had Lenny Kravitz.
Mm.
He brings
Yes.
Ed McMahon, and they make a deal that he'll take the heat and interject
Mhm.
if Channel 4 will come and film what's going on with the league.
Yep.
And the deal was made, and Johnny Carson had to leave New York because he didn't behave properly. It was part of the
Yeah.
deal. That's how he ended up in California.
Mm.
Uh, that was prolonged with my father being there, but it was pretty quick after his assassination.
Mm.
So that was one of the things. Another one he did was this is the first fell forum, the
Yep.
Italian American Civil Rights League, an evening with Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Connie Francis, Ed McMahon, NCC, MC, Trini Lopez, Frankie Valli, The Four Seasons, Victor Nome, Pat Henry, Godfrey Cambridge, Russ Martin, Guy Marks, Don Costa, the PJs, and Morty Sloan III. That was on Friday, November 20th at the Fell Forum.
Oh, so
And
they
then,
had a concert there,
yes,
a
to
benefit
raise money for the
concert.
league.
Mhm.
And, there's pictures of all of them. And that's the mother of the Italian American Civil Rights League. She was the oldest living Italian woman. So
Oh,
big name.
wow.
And from the money and the proceeds of that, and much more was spent, he bought a camp called the Schroeders Mountain Resort
Okay.
in Rosendale, New York.
Oh,
We
okay.
never got to see its opening, but
Mhm.
it did operate 2 seasons, and each season, 2,000 underprivileged kids of
Yep.
every ethnic group were taken in and had 2 weeks of camp.
Wow.
So that was a major accomplishment at that time. He gave the people everything he promised. I'll go through the list of accomplishments.
Yeah,
I still
please.
have the two statues that people think that I'm religious, but the St. Jude, uh,
Yeah.
Our Lady of Fatima, and the Sacred Heart were statues that he would put there before it opened, and he never got to see the opening.
Mm.
But it did run good for 2 years, and the amazing thing is in 1970, late 71, he put a handicap pool in, so he never felt any kid should be left out, and there was
Wow.
no, grants for it or laws or statutes saying you had to do it just the way you thought.
Mm.
Okay, so he was very advanced for his time.
Yeah,
Let's see what the other achievements are.
sure.
A direct result of the massive attendance of Italian Americans and the support of Unity Day, the Attorney General of the United States, with the approval of the President, prohibited the words mafia and Cosa Nostra from the official speeches, press releases, or statements because they defamed and stigmatized millions of Italian Americans.
Yeah.
Governor Rockefeller, following by the president and the attorney general, prohibited the words mafia and Cosa Nostra being used by any state officials in speeches, press releases, and state documents. The greatest result of Unity Day was the showing of strength and power of the Italian American Civil Rights League and the Italian American people. While waiting for a bus to take them to demonstration at FBI headquarters, 14 Italian Americans were unjustly harassed and arrested for loitering. The unjustly harassment and arrested for loitering against the type of harassment in the courts. This case was dismissed because there was no reason the harassment of these individuals. The League has on numerous occasions picketed and demonstrated against defamatory accusations and statements made public through the media. FBI headquarters, Brooklyn Criminal Court, New York Times, Nassau County District Attorney, NBC, City Hall, Queens County Court, ABC, Brooklyn Federal Supreme Court, Foley Square to support civil liberties. On November 28, 1970, Italian American Civil Rights League, one of the greatest black tie concerts in the country that we did. The Christmas program where every chapter in the league gave away gifts to underprivileged children on Christmas.
That's great.
The Italian American Civil Rights League officers and over 350 captains joined together with Jewish brothers at Foley Square to publicly demonstrate for persecution of the Soviet Jews. What else? It goes on and on. Each one of these chapters had for free, and it goes on to say that karate instruction for the children,
Mhm.
daycare, roller hockey, flag football league, indoor basketball, et cetera, et cetera. So the Italian American Civil Rights League, as what the press chose to say, was and it was also help with for people that were homeless
Yep.
and low income housing, which was a scandal at the time.
Right.
So people would say that the league was a front to deflect or whatever. Don't know what they're talking about.
Right,
But you're
exactly.
talking about daycare centers. He also bought the property, but never came to fruition for the first hospital and drug rehabilitation center.
Oh, wow.
And not only that, the league in its chapters and it's working with children and many different things for them to do, as well as having feasts, raising money. We also took care of the elderly.
Mm.
So, when people say the things they say, they just don't have the knowledge, and this is a
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah.
And I have the pictures, I have everything to back it up, and the people that
Right.
support.
No, I think that's just awesome. I wanted people to understand that because the only thing that you hear that people hear about that they were against the Godfather originally, and then
Never
people
against the Godfather.
it never
Matter of
was
fact,
right.
big fan of Mario Puzo, big fan of the book.
Yep,
If
exactly.
his concern was how it portrayed, he didn't
Italian
care how you
Americans.
made it, what it was. It was a fictitious story based on some
Yep,
true story. We
yep,
liked the book, we loved the movie. He just
yep.
didn't like the word mafia, Cosa Nostra, because nobody
Exactly.
in that depiction. And what is organized crime? I mean,
Yeah,
because there's a conspiracy theory, it's organized crime.
yeah,
Crime belongs
exactly.
to the person who commits the crime.
Right,
Once it's a
exactly.
conspiracy, where's the fairness?
Right.
Let's move past that. This is not a defense, whatever. But
Yep.
you're talking about hundreds of thousands, or at least tens of thousands of people, and hundreds of thousands of children and elderly
Yeah.
that were fed, taken care of,
Hmm.
and had community support where they would not have had.
Yep. And
And that was
that's
the way to fight drug addiction.
yep. That's amazing. And what do you think is the reason the government was so threatened by what your father was doing? You know, he
It
obviously
was
is
a
not
very
the first
paranoid
one.
time with Richard Nixon. If you
Okay.
noticed, he didn't like rallies. He
Right.
opened up on the kids at Kent State and shot them. He didn't like
Yes.
demonstration.
Yeah.
Country was at odds because of Vietnam. It was split
Yeah. And
apart.
we know about MLK, you know, he was
Yeah.
shut down too. And so
And
that was
not only
just, it
that,
just doesn't make sense. So now that makes a
people
lot more
don't
sense.
realize that every minority has suffered, but they don't realize the plight the Italians. They were hanging us in the streets.
Mm.
Cops were hanging us in the streets, and it's proven fact.
Yep, I know about
And
the
before,
stories back in New Orleans and all that in the 1870s and 80s. It was, you know, basically they
like
were
Klan
hung.
meetings,
Yeah,
yes. But we were
exactly.
low rung on the totem pole. People don't realize it. Up until the league, if you had an Italian last name, you couldn't work in a bank or on Wall Street.
Really, wow.
It's a fact.
That's just
That
crazy
was
to
a
even
government
think
directive.
about that. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that the census, like in starting in the 20s, or it might have been the 30s, that the government actually put a lot of restrictions on Italian Americans. I mean, Italians and Sicilians being able to get.
We are the only ethnic group that only 20,000 Italians are allowed into this country each year.
Yep, exactly.
There's
It,
still a quota on the amount of Italians that are let into this country.
that's just crazy to think that, you know?
It still goes
Wow.
on today.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I mean it's just nuts to me. And so, you know, the other thing is, you know, we know what happened to your father and like you said, look at all that was accomplished in 2 years and some change. And so what was his plans for the future of the league? Because I think at some point was he going to maybe turn it over to another person or what was
Right.
his
He never
plans?
really, there was a board of directors. He never ran it. He was the founder.
Yes,
So
exactly.
there's another nonsensical thing that they said Carl Gambino wanted him to step down. His actual plan was Dr. Sinatra, who was a cousin of Carl Gambino, very educated, very well liked individual, was
Yeah,
going to take his place. He was tired. He still
right.
would have worked on it, but nobody was telling him to step down.
Right. No.
The
So
government
there.
gave him an ultimatum, being
Mhm.
the Hotel Pro Divinity FBI. They made him an offer that if he backed away, he would never have any problems. And,
Mhm.
he told them where to go. They told him, what we're going to do to you. He said, go ahead and do it.
Mm.
And also at that period of time, there was a woman named T. Grace Atkins that he met on a talk show
Yeah.
that was the head of a lesbian group. And this is how
Mhm.
advanced he was.
Mhm.
And homosexuals were abused in those days, but lesbians, because they were women, were really shunned.
Yep.
He fought for their rights too. He
Yeah.
was a humanist. And they became very close. Matter of fact, we knew he was going to get that shot that day. And
Mm.
uh, she sent us a word that she had a lesbian FBI agent that came
Mm.
to her and told her that she sent for my brother Joey. We knew it. It wasn't a secret.
Mm.
They
Wow.
didn't. They gave him the ultimatum openly, and it was the game they played.
Yeah.
That part
I,
of it wasn't the part that made me angry.
yeah. What had happened to the league after your father? Because you know, was it's still is it still around in some
I
evolution?
believe it is, but it's people don't recognize this, but the Italian American Civil Rights League was always his passion, his
Right.
quest to, because he also in the 50s or early 60s started AID, Americans of Italian descent.
Hmm.
And the same thing that happened to the league happened to AID and went political with the politicians, and the people didn't get anything.
Right. Well, and
You know,
and so and that's something that a lot of people don't.
administrative costs, so to speak.
Right, right, and what's interesting is that some people just see that, you know, and it benefited more than just Italian Americans as well. It was all
No, he made a
disenfranchised people.
he made a triumphant with the blacks and the Jews, and
Yep,
that was the reason.
yep. No, I think
That was
that's awesome.
that was a lot of power for a little guy from Brooklyn to wield.
I hope you enjoyed the interview. We have another part to this interview I'll be dropping soon, where we go into Chris Colombo's life, including where he was during the infamous Third Colombo War. We'll also talk about criminal justice reform, including his experiences being a defendant where he was facing racketeering charges and serious prison time. I appreciate Chris coming on, as he's a true gentleman. Let me know what you thought about what Chris had to say in the comments below. And if you have specific questions for Chris, post them, and we'll make sure they get answered. Thank you for watching. Take care, stay safe, and God bless you always.